Today on episode 436 of I Am Salt Lake podcast, we are joined by Kirk Bengtzen, the owner of Twist right in downtown Salt Lake City. We get to talk about how he became the owner of Twist, obstacles he had to face with owning a bar restaurant with the recent coronavirus, everything that comes along with that. We also get to talk about a new dance club that Kirk is going to be opening up here soon. Such a great conversation. We're going to get into that here shortly. Before we do that, though, I want to introduce ourselves. We're the hosts of the show, of the podcast. Thank you for coming to our podcast. My name is Chris Hollifield.
And my name's Chrissy Hollifield. And if this is your first time listening to this podcast, you might be wondering what it's all about. Well, this show is all about showcasing the awesome people right here in Salt Lake City, Utah. We get to talk to business owners, restaurant owners, breweries, distilleries, comedians, authors, tattoo artists, really anyone that might have a great story to share.
I just want to give a big thank you to our sponsors and supporters of this podcast because we could not do it without them, but we couldn't do it without you guys supporting our supporters. So many great local businesses like New Tech Specialties, Momentum Electric, Market Source Real Estate, Woodland Advisors. There are so many of you. Thank you so much. Head on over to supportsaltlake.com, check out the complete list, and please support them. All right, here's that conversation that we had with Kirk Bengtzen. Such a great conversation. We learned so much about him and about Twist and about what it would be like to own a bar during this coronavirus. Thank you for listening. Enjoy. I like to always even just find out in the beginning where you grew up, where's home, if Utah is home for you.
Yeah, born and raised here in Salt Lake City. I grew up in Sugar House and attended Highland High, and I grew up in SOB, son of a bishop, and now I own a bar. So kind of go figure.
Wait, so your dad was a bishop?
Yeah, and then he was in the stake presidency, and really, really great man. He and I were very, very close before he passed away from cancer, but he was an amazing man. He accepted everybody for who they were and didn't judge them, and I was very blessed.
I was just curious if he ever made it into Twist, maybe had a beer with you or something.
No, I bought it after he passed, unfortunately.
So when did you become the owner then of Twist? You mentioned when you bought it before or after he passed. When was that?
About it was almost 2 years ago, and so I'm a big fan and season ticket holder and sponsor at Real Salt Lake, and I had a good friend there by the name of Phil Palmer, and he and I, after a victory, continued to have a few.
You were just like, oh my gosh, another thing now. You were just like, first of all, in March, now this, what's going to be next? And
that I bought a bar. So here we are.
Oh, no way. Really?
Really.
That's amazing.
Story.
Have you ever owned a bar before? Anything like it?
No, I owned a part of a nightclub back when, 30 years ago, but it was just a short-lived deal. But I've been in the car business for 32 years, so that's what I've been doing most of the time.
What was the biggest shocker from changing from cars to alcohol?
There really wasn't much of a shocker because the car business, any business that you're dealing with the public, it's all about people. You got to have the right people in place. You got to have the right processes. And you got to make your guests feel like they're worth $1 million. And that's what I did in the car business and excelled pretty quick. And then after I bought the bar, I ended up selling all my dealerships. And so now I have this and a few other companies. So
are you kind of working at Twist full time then? Is that kind of your full time thing then now?
No, I am right now just because of what's gone on with COVID and us being shut down and reopening. I wanted to make sure that we just did everything the right way, better than anybody else. I mean, when you come to Twist, we take your temperature before we even check your ID. And if you're over 100.3, you're not allowed into the bar. That protects the staff, protects the other guests. And then we to check their ID, and then we make them sanitize, and then we seat them, and we have all the chair backs 6 feet apart. So the tough part is that, there's a $14,000 fine if you don't adhere to the CDC guidelines. And so obviously that's a large chunk of money. So I'm there a lot now so that I can make sure that we are adhering to those guidelines, and nothing slips through the cracks.
Okay, so you mentioned you take temperatures, you do all these things just to get people in the doors, but then you have to make sure people kind of are distanced apart, right? So you have to like kind of space everything. I mean, that probably cuts into your profit too. I mean, I'm sure it cuts into the profit of any business that way. That's dependent on how many people get through the door and packing it tight.
Right. Substantial difference. I mean, the occupancy that I can bring in.
It's an interest, man. When you're not working at Twist and when you're not doing these other businesses that you have going on, what do you
normally put in the club? So it's been tough. We've had limited staff, but I'm trying to, keep as many employees working as and giving them as many shifts as I can, because I know it's a hard time for them more than most. These guys all depend on this for their daily bread, and they depend on their tip money every night. So yeah, it's been tough. We don't let anybody go up to the bar, which is unusual for bars here in Utah, because they can still be at the bar and 6 feet apart from the bartender. But my concern is if they get up there and they sneeze or cough or do anything, it's going to hit all the glasses, hit the alcohol, and to me, it's not safe. So we've eliminated that, and then we seat people. We don't let people pick their own seats. We seat them, maximum table size of 10 people.
Now, I'm curious, did they tell you like how long this is going to go on for? Because I'm curious.
That's what I was wondering, because we're all kind of floundering. Like none of us really know what's going to be happening pretty much tomorrow, every day. So what do you have an idea of when things might return to quote unquote normal from your perspective?
I don't have a timeline, but I know when it can happen. And unfortunately, I'm a firm believer in our First Amendment rights, and I'm all about peaceful protest and letting our voices be heard. But unfortunately, with a lot of the rioting and the violence and stuff that's going on, and all these groups getting together, we're going to see a spike. And we have right now, Salt Lake City is one of the only cities that's still in orange. And we've got to go 2 solid weeks without an increase of people tested positive in order for us to move to yellow. And then we have to go another 2 solid weeks with no tests going up, and then we can move to green. Now, when we move to green, that's when it'll be normal. So, I'm hoping, I'm cautiously optimistic that Salt Lake City's done so well, but with some of these bigger groups, I'm afraid we're going to see some more spikes. Without that, I was anticipating being back to green by July, but I don't know if that's going to happen now.
Yeah, I wonder if we're ever going to be fully normal, or if it's going to be weird to stand too close to somebody or shake somebody's hand or give somebody a hug. It's
been interesting.
Well, I've always been a germaphobe anyway, so I'm a hugger. I know that sounds weird, but I'd rather hug somebody than shake their hand, because I don't know if they washed their hands after they took a leak or whatever. So
solidarity.
I'm like, I'll give you a hug, but yeah, I mean, I'm quite frankly think that even when we go back to green, I think I'm still going to take temperatures for a while, and I'll let people come in and seat where they want. But I think this is going to change a lot of things going forward after we're even green.
Maybe when you reopen, like when people can sit where they want, you can like stack the place with mannequins to force them to sit so far apart,
Well, yeah, but knowing my bar staff, they'd end up being blow-up dolls, and then I'd have.
Now, you were mentioning the riots that were going on, like especially Saturday. I mean, Saturday was nuts downtown. Did any of that affect you? Because I know you're just right around the corner.
Yeah, it killed my business. We shut down. I had my security staff walk all the team members to their cars, so they got to their cars safely, and it was just sad. Since we opened on May 1st, we've been doing better each week. And Friday, I mean, even with this 1/3 capacity that I've got, that Friday I was about 60% of a normal Friday night, which for a third of the occupancy, to be able to get 70% of the revenue we usually get, I was pumped. And then we have a great Sunday brunch, and then Saturdays are always better than Fridays. So we were all living large, thinking, all right, we're back. And they just think when we get to green, but then we had to shut down. And it just was I had to pay my security staff to stay at the bar all night to make sure that nothing happened to our, facility and property and everything. And it's just sad. It's just that.
See, and that's what's frustrating about like the riots, because it actually is hurting some of the small business downtown, I feel like. And it's like, so is that really helping? I don't know. I'm not an expert in that department, but it seems like it's not helping. I don't know.
Not at all. No, it just, and that's what makes me feel bad, is because, the riot or the protests are 1,000,000% justified right now.
Sure.
I mean, I full on agree. The sad part is that the people that are causing the problems, they're hurting other small business owners, other people like me, are more than me. They're hurting my employees, that didn't get a punch in, didn't get their tips for a good Saturday night. And, they had nothing to do with this. They had nothing to do with the problem. In fact, we have such a multicultural, atmosphere in Twist. I mean, we have every single person, any race, color, whatever they preference and sexual orientation, it doesn't matter. We cater to them all. So, we are the least, the furthest out there of being non-prejudiced, non-racial, and yet everybody had to shut down.
I want to kind of go back to March just for a second, because I haven't really had the opportunity to talk to like really any downtown businesses since like the restaurant and bar scene when they made you shut down in March. Did they call you up? Like, what was that? Like, do you remember that day?
Yeah, I do. When that whole thing started getting pretty big and a big conversation, I actually shut down a couple days before.
Okay.
And I just told the staff, I said, look, I don't want to jeopardize you. I don't want to jeopardize any of our guests. I mean, who knows what's going to happen, but we're just going to go ahead and shut down. I'm going to cover 70% of your pay, and just going to ask that maybe you guys come in groups of 5 or 6, 1 or 2 days a week, and we'll just totally douche this club and just pull everything out, just scrub it down, sanitize the shit out of it, and just make it better, and also make them feel like they're doing something for the pay. And then a couple days later, they said, hey, everybody's got to shut down. We're on total lockdown. And so, we were a little step above, and then they started saying, well, you get this PPP money and there's these other options. And it was crazy. I applied for the PPP money, the disaster relief money, and all the stuff from the state and then from the federal government. I applied for all of it within 48 hours, 72 hours of it being announced. And I only got my PPP money, probably the end of April. It was ridiculous.
This episode of the podcast is sponsored by Momentum Electric, which you can find online at momentumelectricslc.com. Momentum Electric is your local Salt Lake City electrical company with over 10 years of experience from Kevin and his team. At Momentum, you can always trust their employees and the work that they do. I'm going to run down some of the services that they offer. Maybe you want to add some wall outlets. They can do that for you. Maybe you want to change out or add can lighting upstairs, maybe in your basement. They can do that. Maybe you want to change out devices. Momentum Electric can do that for you. Maybe you want to change out your electrical panel and service equipment at your house. Well, they can do that. Hey, did you get yourself a brand new electric vehicle and now you need to install an EV charger and you don't even know where to start? Well, Momentum Electric can help you with that. If it has to do with electrical, chances are Momentum Electric can help you out. Momentum believes in following the National Electric Code and doing the finest work to make your home more beautiful and more efficient. Momentum Electric has fair pricing and they'll never try and sell you on something that you don't need or doesn't work for your situation. They will always listen to your needs and help you solve your issues in the best way possible. Momentum will always treat you with the utmost respect because they want to create a lifelong relationship with you. Their website, momentumelectricslc.com. Go check it out. Find out more about them. But better yet, if you need to get some work done, just give my buddy Kevin a call. 801-580-2430. That's his direct line. That way he can give you an estimate for your job. Again, the website, Momentum Electric SLC, or give Kevin a call. 801-580-2430. And many, many thanks to Momentum Electrical for sponsoring this episode of the podcast. What do you think is going to happen to the businesses downtown, man? Like the other restaurants and bars and just our little community down there. I mean, do you think it's going to be able to pick up?
I sure hope so. I've been very, very sad because there's some businesses here, that they're not going to be able to reopen, and they just didn't have the financial ability to make it through this, and it's heartbreaking, and I don't want to mention any names because I'm just hearing it through rumors, but the some of the people that I've been told, I mean, there's one bar that is like a pillar of bars in downtown Salt Lake that's been here for probably longer than you've been alive, and yet he's not able to make it through. And there's some other dance clubs that aren't going to come back, and the ones that I've heard of, I'm okay with that because I'm building a dance club, so we'll take the business and run. So, but it's just sad. I mean, it's a huge expense. And it's just, and insurance won't pay you anything. I talked to my insurance company and I said, hey, there's got to be some type of a, disaster relief or some type of clause in our insurance policy for loss of income. And they said, no, this is considered an act of God to a certain point, and there's a provision in there that completely excludes anything like this. This is a government order. This is not like your building got struck by lightning. And so it wasn't even a conversation that they would have with me.
That's horrible.
Yeah. I mean, what can people like us do to help, like the bars and the restaurants right now? So, we want you guys to keep going. Like, we want to support you.
Yeah, and I appreciate that question because we have such an outstanding community. I'm like you guys. I am born and raised here. I love this place. I love the people. I love everything about this place. And when we reopened on May 1st, it was a true sign of the type of people we have here in Utah, because people were coming out, and there was one time, and I get emotional sometimes, so I apologize if I do, but there's I think it was our second group of guests that came into the bar. They ordered some food and had some drinks, and their tab was maybe $50, and they tipped the server $250. I mean, it's just like, that's what we've been seeing more than anything else, is these big tips, people coming in, they're like, hey, you know what? We're just here to support you guys. And it just warms my heart that people are doing that. And that's really all we can do at this point. It's, we just got to support each other. We got a good group of bars downtown, like the Green Pig, Bridget that owns the Green Pig. We're good friends. We do a lot of things together and joint things. I mean, the more successful she is, the more successful we'll all be, because they'll go have a couple drinks there, and then they'll pop over to my bar, and so on and so forth. So it's this collaborated effort that we all need to put together and say, hey, and then this, it's sorry to change subjects a little bit, but then, they turn around and they put this week-long curfew in place. Well, luckily I have some connections with our mayor, and I was able to find out that didn't mean that we had to close. But yet, if you listen to the news, if you listen to everybody's perception, everything was at 8:00 shut down. So I've been open all week and staying open till midnight, but it's just tough because I got these helicopters flying around. I mean, you feel like you're in a war zone, and it's just sad because, people don't know. They think a curfew means they can't go out after 8:00, which unfortunately wasn't the case. It was 8:00, no more gatherings in public places.
Didn't she lift that curfew though? I think she lifted it. Yeah.
Yesterday. Yeah.
Well, see, and it even confused me, because technically meeting in a public place would be going somewhere, right? Sometime it could be considered going somewhere.
Right.
Like, I'm the person that thought that you can't leave the house. Like, you can't go outside.
Right.
And I'm sure at that point, what was it like when they issued it was Sunday, Monday, and you were just like, oh my gosh, another thing now. You were just like, first of all in March, now this, what's going to be next?
Well, and did anything get hurt in the earthquake? I mean, we might as well. What isn't happening?
Yeah, just keep throwing it at us.
Right?
We were fortunate. We, I have a very good friend, and he really helps run all my companies, and his name's Greg Thigeson, and he was there. We made sure everything was tightened down, and we lost maybe 3 or 4 bottles of alcohol, and that was it. We were very, very fortunate.
Let's talk about your food that you have there. Let's do you have your normal menu now, or is it kind of a special menu?
kind of a limited menu, and it's funny that you said that because here's my nice meal getting ready for me when we get done.
Oh, wow.
So it's
what is that you got there?
This is a Philly cheesesteak, and I throw the au jus in it on the side, so it's like a French dip. But I got my jalapenos and stuff like that. But
you deliver,
so we have
right?
a menu because we have to throw every menu away after somebody touches it. So we have to. So we have a menu that just has our most popular items on it right now, and then it was tough when we first opened in May because getting a lot of the product was difficult because of the trucking companies that weren't able to deliver a lot of the stuff. So we just limited it down to what we knew we could get and what was most popular on the menu, and we still have a good variety.
Do you do curbside pickup as well?
No, we never really got into takeout, and just because we had a very successful business with people coming in, and so I didn't want to try to reinvent the wheel, and so I didn't even try to do something that we weren't already doing.
This episode of the podcast is brought to you by the Salt Lake City Dreadlock Shop. The Salt Lake City Dreadlock Shop's mission is to make Utah cool one dreadlock at a time while offering a clean, affordable, and professional experience filled with love and understanding. And I can personally vouch for them because earlier this year I went there to get my dreadlocks done, and I have been loving it. They offer a clean dreadlock knotting service. Clean dreads are a crochet method that's natural. There's no wax or gross internet neglect methods. And they have been absolutely amazing for me on my dreadlock journey because they're a fabulous resource. You can follow them on social media and gain so much knowledge. They're always willing to help you. They're always willing to answer any questions. They are absolutely the most amazing company, family atmosphere. I love these guys so much. So if you'd like to get in touch with them and get a free consultation or just ask a question, you can text them anytime at 801-824-8298. Include what you're looking for, include your name, and wait for a response. And they'll get back to you as soon as possible. And if you'd like a free consultation with that text, just send them a picture of your hair. You can visit their website at slcdreads.com, follow them on social media, or give them a text, 801-824-8298. Thank you so much to Salt Lake City Dreadlock Shop for sponsoring this episode of the podcast.
Another question I wanted to make sure to ask, normal hours you mentioned till midnight, so it sounds like you're kind of just open during normal hours right now.
So we're closed on Mondays, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we're open from 5 until midnight. And then Fridays and Saturdays, we're open from 5 till 1 a.m. And then Sundays, we have brunch that starts at 11 to 3, but we're open from 11 till midnight on Sundays.
Very cool. What do you do, man, to keep your, I'm sure you have days that you just want to throw the towel in, man, but you got a smile on your face right now. You look like a happy guy. How do you do it? What do you do? What's your secret?
Well, you got to be grateful for what you have. I was fortunate with my parents, like I was talking about earlier, and they did a great job of always making sure you're grateful for what you have and just keep trucking. We have I have a business in Hawaii where we're a car distributor, and so that one, Hawaii is just shut down because all the tourists aren't going there, so that's down. I've got those employees there, and I've got this pizza lab type thing that we make this very, very healthy pizza crust that, we were just starting up. So both of those were less than a year old. So you couldn't apply for any funds because you weren't in business for over a year. But, you just got to roll with it. There's always going to be something out there. There's always going to be some bullshit that somebody, something happens. And, if you dwell on the past, you're just not going to get anywhere. My favorite saying to my kids is if you got one foot in yesterday and one foot in tomorrow, all you're doing is pissing all over today. So, let's not worry about it. Let's just keep trudging forward.
I love that. Tell me about this pizza crust, man. You got to at least tell me a little bit about it. You brought it up.
So I have some very dear friends that he played basketball at University of Utah and then played in the NBA for a while, and then did some jazz, some commentating with Utah Jazz after he finished his career in Italy, and he married a beautiful Italian girl. And anyway, so we're very, very close, and they said, hey, there's this pizza crust, P-I-N-S-A, pizza crust that they have in Italy that is 83% water, 53% less carbs, and 53% less sugar, but it tastes great. And they do so much out in Italy, so we have an opportunity to get the rights for all of North America. So I'm like, well, kind of sounds too good to be true. I want to taste this because if anything's healthy, it tastes like shit, in my opinion. So my friend, one of my business partners and I flew down to a pizza convention, tasted it, and we're like, holy cow, this is phenomenal. And so we built down in Pleasant Grove. We built it's called the Pizza Lab, and so we make the crusts, and we had everything set up with U.S. Foods to distribute it nationwide. We had Harmon's all in. We had some people down in Mexico that were going to be ordering Costco's and Walmart's and stuff. And then this happens. I mean, literally, we were ready to open the doors and get rolling the week before this happened. So that's just all sitting down there bright and shiny and waiting for us to get rolling again.
Is there a website that I could check this out at or anything?
Not yet. Everything's brand new. It's if you go and look up pizza, Pinsa, I mean, there's lots of people that have it in the US, but they're having it shipped in frozen from Italy. Whereas now we'll be able to distribute it to them fresh. And so, but there are a few businesses around the country that have it.
I totally Googled that when you said it. And now all I want to do is eat some.
Oh, I know.
It's delicious.
You don't sell it at Twist?
We are. It'll be on the menu next week.
Very cool.
I'll guess where I'm going next week.
Well, that's perfect because this episode will be going up Sunday night, so that's perfect.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
Just because we like to find out a little bit about the people we bring on here, Kirk, because a lot of times, people might see you like out and about at Twist and stuff, but they don't really know who you are. And so we like to kind of spotlight who the person is. Like, what are some of your other hobbies and interests, man? When you're not working at Twist and when you're not doing these other businesses that you have going on, what do you like to do?
Travel and family. That's pretty much my life. I've got a beautiful family and I'm very, very blessed. And it sounds like you with the beautiful voice I hear, but don't see her face. That sounds like you're like me and a good salesman. And, we sold ourselves on perfect women. And so I've been very blessed. My wife and I have been together for about 25 years now. And our oldest son is married, and I got a couple of grandkids. And you know what? I could give a shit less about my kids. I just like my grandkids now. So that's what we do. We just hang out with them. And I'm kidding, of course. But and then I've got another son, and it's 21 and just finishing up at the U. And then I've got two 13-year-olds. So I still have kids at home, and we like to travel. I'm a huge sports fan. I'm a season ticket holder to about everything you can imagine. The Utes, the Jazz, the Real, the 49ers, the Raiders. I've got season tickets to all of them. So we have a lot of fun traveling and doing different things with sports.
When you're at the bar to get a drink, what's your go-to drink?
Well, I'm a big wine guy, and I love my wine. In fact, I bought my house just because of the wine cellar. I walked through and I saw the wine cellar and the view, and I said, I'm done. And my wife goes, don't you want to see the rest of the house? I'm like, I don't care. That's all I care about is a view and a wine cellar. But I'm also I'm a vodka guy. So and I tell people I'm sweet enough, so I don't need anything sweet in there. So I just have vodka and ice. So that's about it.
You were mentioning how you're a sports fan and you have these season tickets for all the different sports teams. Do you have a memorable sporting event or even concert that you've been to?
Boy, there's a ton. Of course, the Jazz, when we were in the finals, those couple of years with the Chicago Bulls, and it's even more fun now that the Final Note series is out, talking with Michael Jordan. But it's, those were some fun years. I took my family and my buddy Greg that I was telling you about. We went to the Super Bowl and watched the Niners this last year, and even though they lost, it was a great game finally instead of some blowout. And if you're going to lose to Andy Reid, who deserves it, and Patrick Mahomes, that is just one badass guy. So it was a lot of fun.
Very cool. I want to shift direction to Salt Lake City. There's a few standard Salt Lake City questions that we ask on here. We have family and friends that visit the city. They come to town. They come from California or New York, out of town. And then they're like, show me around. What's the Kirk tour? Like, we all kind of have those certain things that we show people, maybe a drive out to the mountains or downtown or the Capitol. I don't know. What's the Kirk tour?
Well, there's a couple. It's funny. I in some of the car dealerships I owned, I had a partner that was from Cincinnati, Ohio. And, I've lived here all my life, and it was funny because as some of his people would come out at various times and we'd be doing meetings or what have you, every one of them went to Antelope Island, and I've never been there. So I throw that out only just because it would seem to be the cool thing for these. And every one of them, there was like 30 of them that came out over a 5-year period. And every one of them was like, oh, that Antelope Island's awesome. For me, we have so many beautiful things. I had my primary residence down in St. George for about 8-9 years. And, I love the Red Rocks. I love Moab. The mountains we have are just spectacular. But the other thing is the lakes. We've got some really, really cool, beautiful lakes. And it's just, I could go on and on, but those are probably my top ones.
With summer right around the corner, is there anything that you're excited about, or is like your summer kind of ruined with everything being canceled?
It's going to be a weird summer.
It is a weird summer. It's we're honestly, I love to work. I used to be a workaholic. Now I don't work near as much as I used to, but I'm just anxious to get back in business and get the Hawaiian company going again and get the pizza going and get people back into Twist. I think I mentioned I'm building a dance club here at Twist, a big 9,300 square foot dance club. So we're really focused on the construction of that right now. And and then, I work really hard, and then I take my family and we leave for 4 or 5 days and get out of town. And that's my refresher. And then I come back to work.
Now, you mentioned a dance club. Is that going to be actually inside Twist there, or is that off of it?
It's right next to it. So, in fact, I'm sitting in the building next door. So right to the east of Twist, there's a shared wall with a 6-story building called the Commercial Club. So we have the whole lower level, and it's 9,300 square feet, and so it's going to be a great dance club. It's going to be called Twist and Shout. You'll be able to go back and forth between Twist and Shout through a little tunnel that goes from the downstairs of Twist into the nightclub. So we'll do Wednesday nights will be LGBTQ plus nights. We have a very large LGBTQ plus following, and we're very active with that community. And like, for example, last year, and I don't know what's going to happen this year because Pride got canceled, but instead of, the typical Utahns that celebrate Days of 47, we did Gays of 47, and we had a big party, and it was a lot of fun. And then Wednesday nights will be Latino night, and then Friday and Saturday will be normal dance club, bands, DJs, EDM music, that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's gonna be fun.
I feel like with a name like Twist and Shout, you absolutely have to have like a sock hop theme opening.
Oh yeah,
that would be I would totally go in a poodle skirt.
I love it.
They're the best.
When is that expected to get finished up then?
Great question. We're hoping in August, and then of course we're trying to time it right for when we go to green, because until we're green, I can't allow dancing. So that's one of the sad parts is, we bring DJs in on the weekend, and people want to get up and dance, and they can dance by their tables, but they can't get 6 feet to another table. They can't dance with other people. So it's until we get to then, there's no point in me even opening. But construction, we're thinking mid-August.
Couple more Salt Lake City questions here, Kirk. If you could change anything about Salt Lake City pre-COVID, what would you change?
So being a car dealer for 30 years, I travel all around and would go all over, and you'd tell somebody, where are you from? And I say, well, I'm from Salt Lake. There's 2 questions that come out immediately. How many wives do you have, and are you Mormon? And, the perception of Salt Lake and Utah in general, but Salt Lake in particular, is so different than what it actually is. So, part of me thinks I want everybody to know how cool it is. And then the other part of me is like, I don't think so. I kind of like what we've got here, and the people that really know Salt Lake, it's cool. We don't want to have it turn into some huge overcrowded city, but, and we are getting really crowded, but that's the second part would be probably the liquor laws. I mean, the liquor laws are super tight. Liquor licenses are super hard to get, and it's I think we just need to maybe just open up a little bit, just to be more attractive to not only our people that live here, but we have a lot of tourists that come in here for conventions. We're a very big convention city, and it's my staff, when you have a big convention in here, spends 20% of their time explaining our liquor laws. It's this, you can do this. Now, don't get me wrong, John Huntsman, who hopefully will win for governor again, when he was governor and he was able to change it from having to have a club, you had to have a membership to get into it. Believe me, we've come a long way. So I
remember that. Yeah, I remember those days.
Yeah.
Very cool. What about, do you have a favorite local eating spot? I know you probably eat a lot at Twist and whatnot, but I'm sure there's one or two other favorites that you like around town.
Yeah. Valter's is a very dear friend. And, the funny part is that everybody that goes to Valter's probably feels like they're a very good friend. It's because the way he makes you feel. But he just runs a spectacular restaurant. The food's always amazing. And he's just, he's just an amazing guy himself. I like good steakhouses, and but I try to stay away from chains. Ruth's Chris does a great job, but I always try to support local. And you take somebody that has a one-off, and there's a lot of cool places here.
Before we completely wrap up here, Kirk, was there anything that you were hoping we would talk about that we didn't talk about, or anything that you want to promote, or anything? Get people down to Twist. What's the address, social media, anything? I mean, I'm going to open this up to you, buddy.
Elevator pitch time.
I appreciate that. More than anything, I just got to tell you guys, when you sent me the message and I started looking at your stuff, I'm like, how in the hell have I never seen this guy before? I mean, I apologize because I feel bad because you got a lot of followers, but I just am so appreciative of what you're doing, because I am 1,000,000,000% with you. We have a beautiful place. We have beautiful people. And you know what? I think we have the most naturally beautiful people in the world here. They could wake up and don't take a shower and go out for a run, and you're like, man, that's a good looking person. And so we're very, very blessed, for what we have here. And, so I appreciate you guys letting us on here. Of course, Twist is just over here at 32 Exchange Place. I did want to say one thing about our place, though, that's a little unique. We have two things that we offer that not a lot of places have. And that one, we have a very large patio, and, we can seat more people on our patio than we can on our first floor and inside the bar. So right now is patio season. It's awesome. And so we have that. But the second part is, I invite everybody that comes to just walk through the bar, because it's an old boiler room. This was Salt Lake City Stock Exchange, these 4 buildings around Twist. And that was the boiler room that heated and powered. In 1973, it was put on the National Historical Building Society. And it's just, we've tried to keep it as looking as much like the boiler room as it was back in the early 1900s, late 1800s, whenever it was. And it's a spectacular, cool place to hang out. Our staff is phenomenal. I mean, there's very, very, very seldom, maybe one out of, 473 trillion that leave our establishment not feeling very welcome and having a good time.
Every episode, Chrissy asks a final question.
Uh-oh.
I do.
And so I'm going to let her ask the final question. Kirk, thank you again so much for coming and doing the podcast. I'll send you this link when it is active. This podcast will be going up Sunday night, and I'll let Chrissy ask her final question.
Right on. So, Kirk, if you could leave our listeners with a piece of life advice or a motto that you live by, what would it be?
Can I say 2?
Sure.
Absolutely.
Sure.
So
the more positive, the better.
Well, I'm a positive guy, as you can tell, and they're both positive. I believe in everybody doing the right thing for the right reason. If you do the right thing for the right reason, then you'll always be happy, and more times than not, you'll be successful. And I'm a firm believer in that. And then the other thing is that my saying is go big or go home. And, I've gone big a couple times. I've gone home a few times. But, it's funny, my parents, bless their hearts, they worked. They had 5 kids, typical, good Mormon family. But we had to work for everything on our own. And I had the ability to become successful because I had the guts to do it. And, people always say, well, how did you go from this to this to this? I owned part of my first dealership when I was 29 years old. And, I didn't have any money. I just started selling cars and worked my way up. But it's just about betting on yourself. People go, what do you invest in? I said, I invest in me. It's the only thing I can control. I can't control the stock market. Can't control the government. Can't control all these things that are going on. So put faith in yourself. Put faith in yourself. Go big or go home.
Thanks again to Kirk Bengtzen for joining us on this episode of the podcast. All the links that we mentioned in this conversation can be found with this episode's show notes on our podcast website, which can be found at iamsaltlake.com/436.
So last week, after I stopped recording, I realized I didn't even share with everybody that I was going to be teaching a podcast class at the University of Utah this fall.
Yeah.
I am so excited about this.
It's going to be so cool.
It's an interesting opportunity. Totally unexpected. It is going to be online. I do know that. It's going to be online and in the evenings. And we're going to be starting October into November. But I'll let everybody know because I would love you to be in my class.
Yeah, I mean, they couldn't have picked a better teacher.
It's going to be good. It's going to be beginning podcasting. I'm going to help you get your podcast. I am going to help you get your podcast off the ground and get it launched the right way. But let's get into our weekly recommendations, our quarantine edition, because Chrissy and I, we're still kind of hanging out here at the house. We're
looking around at things like, what do we do while we're here?
Yeah, well,
what did we do this week?
Watch a lot of movies, listen to a lot of podcasts.
That's right.
And Chrissy likes to,
have a few drinks alongside that. I mean, when life hands you a quarantine and riots, there's always tequila, right? So I would like to personally suggest that when you're having a bad day, get a little pick-me-up with a little shot of tequila. Get yourself going. Not all day, but
There was a time I couldn't handle tequila. I just did not like it. It was like on the bottom of the barrel. Now, it's not uncommon for me to get a shot of tequila at the bar.
Yeah. It's technically a probiotic if you have one shot before you eat and one shot after you eat, and that is science.
I wish my stomach would say the same thing, though.
Yeah.
It's... It looks like Lucy has something she wants to recommend.
Lucy, what are you recommending today? A bite?
The joys...
Lucy would like to recommend Pocoyo on Netflix.
I don't know if you guys could hear Lucy in the background there on the microphone. The joys of doing a podcast with a 2-year-old, though, right?
Right, and I will leave you to yours.
My weekly recommendation, I know we're all stuck inside. We're watching a lot of Netflix right now. We're streaming a lot of content. We're watching stuff on YouTube, listening to podcasts. So my weekly recommendation is Ozark. I guess season 3 just finally came out on Netflix. I haven't even watched it yet, so I'm starting back at season 1, but it is a fantastic show. If you haven't watched it yet, go check it out. And before we leave, we want to remind you our entire back catalog of podcast episodes are at iamsaltlake.com. This is the hub of this podcast. So head on over there, check them out. And be sure to share any of your favorite episodes with your family and friends on your favorite social media, or you can share it in the office. And everybody have a great week. I hope you have a great week out there and get out and enjoy some of the city. Support local, especially right now. And we'll see you on the next episode of I Am Salt Lake Podcast.
And good night, Grammy.